So today I'm going to talk about big data assimilation, revolutionizing weather prediction. So this is a talk about using the supercomputers and the big data from the real world and combine them to make the new weather forecasting. So this time I'm going to summarize what we have achieved recently about this Himawari 8 satellite data, that's a big data, and assimilate it into a simulation, that's a numerical weather prediction, that enables 10-minute updates of rain and flood predictions. So the results that we had were published in these two journal publications. One is in the AGU, the American Geophysical Union publication, the Journal of Geophysical Research, Atmospheres. And we have this paper published this January. And also we have another paper in Monthly Weather Review, that's in the American Meteorological Society, assimilating all-sky Himawari 8 satellite infrared radiances, a case study of the Typhoon Soudelor 2015. And these publications are publicly available in these DOI addresses. So what is Himawari 8? So Himawari 8 is a new generation geostationary satellite, so that we get this colorful image, more frequent and precise. That adds up to about 50 times of more data than the previous generation, Himawari 7. As you can see, the frequency of this image was every hour, or 30 minutes in the northern hemisphere in the previous generation. Now with Himawari 8, it became every 10 minutes. So 50 times of more data, we would like to take advantage. So here we have the observations based on the new sensor producing big data. And also we have simulations based on the powerful supercomputer, like the K computer, that also produces big data, and we can also process the big data. So the idea is to combine these two through data assimilation. By concept, data assimilation is like the plus sign or the bridge between the observations and simulations, and try to add value. So the observations are the data that we get from the real world. So this is a data-driven approach. And simulations are the process-driven. So we have equations of motion based on our understanding of the physics and dynamics of the atmosphere. So we solve these equations that produce the simulations. So data assimilation combines these two different approaches and use both as a source of information. So in this study, we use this scale LETKF system that we developed at RIKEN. That's a regional numerical weather prediction system based on the regional weather model known as scale. And the LETKF represents the local ensemble transform Kalman filter, originally developed at the University of Maryland. And we apply this ensemble Kalman filter method to this scale model and try to assimilate the Himawari 8 big data. First, we tested the system with a case of Typhoon Soudelor. So this typhoon was the strongest western North Pacific typhoon in 2015, and well captured by Himawari 8, like this. And this became 900 hectopascal. That was the strongest in 2015. So this is the results of data assimilation. So here, the right panel shows the observations. So we can see that the intense precipitation system in the north of this typhoon that was not well simulated without Himawari 8 data here. But with Himawari 8, we can clearly see the impact, the advantage of using Himawari 8, improving this typhoon structure. By initializing the model from this analysis using Himawari 8, we can predict the rapid intensification of this typhoon. This graph shows the minimum sea level pressure, so the lowest, the stronger. And the blue is the observed based best track data. It reaches to 900 millibar, 900 hectopascal here. That's the strongest. And without Himawari 8 data, the prediction was a lot weaker than it should be. But with Himawari 8, we can clearly see the advantage, the improvement of the forecast. Since the previous generation Himawari 7 were capable of observing every 30-minute northern hemisphere clouds, we also tested every 30-minute data assimilation instead of every 10 minutes by reducing the time interval of this data. So we can see the clouds in the northern part of this typhoon, both in 30 minutes and 10-minute case. But if we look carefully, more closely, we miss some parts of the intense high altitude clouds, as we can see here in 10-minute data assimilation or the observation. So we can have strong precipitation here, associated with strong precipitation. And here we are missing some parts of the clouds. And also the central part, we have some fake eye structure that were not observed here or simulated with this 10-minute cycle. And this had a strong impact on the prediction of this intensity of this typhoon. So here we show the same curves as previously shown, the black, red, and blue. And the green shows the 30-minute, the reduced temporal resolution of the data. And we can see that the green is a lot higher than the red. That means the prediction was not as accurate. It was essential to capture this high moisture near the low troposphere, the low levels of the atmosphere. With the Himawari 8 data, every 10 minutes, we get more moist air. But every 30 minutes was not as moist as the red case. And also the uncertainties estimate here was reduced. I mean, the less uncertain, so that means more certain about our estimate with more data that we used. And this shows the scatter plot where we find more intensity with more moist air in the lower troposphere near the typhoon core. So every 10-minute data helped to reduce the dry bias of this model and also the uncertainties, and that end up with a better prediction of the intensity. Here is another case. That's a September 2015 case where we had 2 typhoons passing Japan. And at this time, we had a typhoon on the eastern ocean, the other typhoon just south of Japan. And here we have heavy rainfall associated with this typhoon Etau, and that produced a heavy rainfall band in the Kanto region that caused a severe disaster in that area. So here we see the observation on the right, and this is a case without Himawari 8. So this is a simulation without Himawari 8, and we see the clear difference between these two. about the cloud system associated with this typhoon that disappeared quickly. With assimilating this observation, this Himawari 8 experiment produced much closer structure of these clouds associated with the typhoon like this. So we made a prediction of the precipitation in 12 hours. So this is a 12-hour forecast. And this is what was observed by the operational radar system. And this is the observation by the surface gauge. So we can see the heavy rainfall here. And this is the case, the prediction without using the Himawari 8 data. So that was shifted to the west by more than 100 kilometers. And here with Himawari 8, a lot improved from this. So 12-hour forecast rain location was much improved by using the Himawari 8 data every 10 minutes. So now we have a better prediction of precipitation. We tried to predict the flood risk by running the river runoff model. So this is the river catchment area. So we calculate the amount of the rain falling into this catchment area and run the river runoff model. So what we did is like this. So we have the runoff model using the observed radar data as an input. So we can produce the best possible river flow forecast. And we also run the prediction from the scale LETKF system, and that produces the rain patterns. So we feed in, so we can take the initial condition from this scale LETKF system, and this initial condition can run the forecast of precipitation. And we can take the initial condition from this river runoff model forecast to here. So we don't use the radar data in the future, but we use the radar data up to this time. Then we can initialize the river discharge forecast. Then we take the input of the rain pattern from this prediction. Then we can get the river forecast. So we can do this without Himawari 8 only once in 6 hours, because our data assimilation cycle is 6 hours by default. So with Himawari 8 data, because we get every 10-minute initial conditions by assimilating Himawari 8 every 10 minutes, so we can initialize this forecast every 10 minutes. And also we can initialize the river model every 10 minutes, so that we get a lot of river forecast within this 6-hour period. So this is the river discharge prediction from initialized at this time, September 9th, 0 UTC. And this gray curve shows the control experiment using the observed rainfall, so close to the observation. So we have a lot of discharge that caused the levee collapse, and that caused the disaster. So at this time, without Himawari 8 data, the prediction had some discharge, but not as large as this. It's less than a quarter. So this time, at the same initial time, with Himawari 8, we get a better prediction here, but not as good as this. But the advantage of having every 10-minute initial conditions is that we can initialize a model every 10 minutes, so that we have many and many predictions in this 6-hour period. So as time goes by, we get more probability of having a larger discharge. So we can notice that we have more risk to this river discharge, the large river discharge. And this black dashed curve initialized from this 0.6, that's the forecast available after this 0 UTC. This forecast gives some probability of large discharge, about half of it should be. But at this time, we have this red initial condition with Himari 8 that produce very close to this large discharge. So what I've shown is just a part of a bigger research project on this big data assimilation project, where we use the K-computer and Himari 8, as well as a new radar system known as the phase array weather radar, and that produce 100 times of more data than the previous generation. And we combine these technologies to make the new weather prediction. This can be viewed in a new cyber-physical framework, the cyber-physical fusion for weather prediction. We have a cyberspace. We have a prediction from the supercomputing system, and that can be synchronized with the physical world through data assimilation. We take the real data plugged into this K-computer, and then this predicted precipitation system in the computer is really linked to this physically observed precipitation system. Then if we can provide the near future forecast, people can prepare in advance to this type of event. But this idea can be applied to any different simulation world. So if we can simulate the real world accurately, we can take the data real time and make them synchronize, so that we have the cyberspace synchronized with the physical world. So that's what we call the cyber-physical fusion, not only for weather prediction but also for any type of simulations. So here is a general concept of data assimilation. It's like a bridge between the real world data and simulations. This can be viewed as the fifth paradigm of scientific methodology. The first is theory, and the second is experiment, and the third simulation, and the fourth, more recently, we study big data analytics as a source of new scientific paradigm. The fourth paradigm. As the fifth paradigm, the data assimilation combining the methods in observations and also simulations, so through the big data analytics technologies. So this can be a new paradigm for scientific discovery. And I have been teaching data assimilation in Kyoto University for the past 2 years. And when I taught data assimilation, I thought that this should be a part of scientific literacy in science university. In terms of that, the students need to understand what is the errors and also what is the dynamical system. So I saw many students graduating the science major schools without knowing dynamical systems or the errors. So this is the theory of dealing with the errors and dynamical systems. So by teaching this, the concept of data assimilation in all science major students as a literacy, I think we can change the world. So data assimilation evolved with meteorology or other earth science fields based on the mathematics and dynamical system theory. But now it starts expanding to different fields, including the engineering applications and social science, like traffic or material flows or population, finance, as well as neuroscience or biology or basic physics or cosmology. the real-time information, as I said, the synchronization between the cyberspace and physical space can be applied not only to the weather, but also a highway or many other fields. And the real-time information really has values, immediate value. So we can find industry partners or making the direct society benefits. So the idea is to try to expand this data assimilation concept to different fields of simulation and try to make a new scientific movement across the borders through data assimilation. So we do a number of events to promote the concept. This is the most recent one, the RIKEN International School on Data Assimilation, RISDA 2018, that we did in January. So we had students from other parts of the world, and that was very successful. So we are just making a step, some progress towards this goal. To summarize, what I talked about was using the Himawari 8 data, that's a big data, and scale model that produced the high-resolution numerical weather prediction using the K computer, and combined through data assimilation. So we try to revolutionize weather prediction through this research project. And also we look forward on applying this data assimilation concept to broader applications. Thank you very much for your attention.